Television as we know it today might not have been possible without the insight and determination of the American inventor and television pioneer, Philo T Farnsworth. Farnsworth was born on the 19th of August 1906. And in 1918 his father moved the family from their small log cabin to a relative's nearby 240-acre ranch in Idaho. Philo was surprised and excited to find his new home wired for electricity powered by a generator that provided lighting and the running of the farm equipment. Fascinated by the new electric and mechanical technology of the day, Philo immersed himself in a batch of technology magazines he had found in the attic of his new home. With his new knowledge and insight, he was able to repair the ranch's generator, which had become troublesome, by rewiring its armature. And for his mother, he converted her hand-powered washing machine to run by electric power. Farnsworth, while in high school, excelled in physics and chemistry. Then one day he asked a science teacher what his thoughts were about an electric television system he had envisioned, and then proceeded to fill several blackboards illustrating how it could be accomplished. Impressed, the teacher encouraged him to continue working to develop his concept. And after graduation he enrolled at Brigham Young University, where he made use of the school's research labs to further develop his concept of an electric television system. Farnsworth was not the first to invent a working television system. Although it is debated as to who was first, it is known that in 1926, John Logie Baird, a Scottish amateur scientist, transmitted the first television picture. Using a mechanical camera consisting of a large rotating disc with spiral holes which produced the image. Farnsworth realized the limitation of such a system. He believed an all-electronic scanning system could produce a superior image. And, while living in Salt Lake City, he met two San Francisco philanthropists who agreed to fund his research and set him up with a research laboratory in Los Angeles, California. Then on September 7, 1927, Farnsworth succeeded, using his image dissector camera tube to transmit the image of a straight line to a receiver in another room. Then on September 3, 1928, before the press and his investors, who were demanding to know when they would see the returns on their investment, transmitted the image of a dollar sign to everyone's amusement. Then in 1929 he had eliminated the need for the system's mechanical motor generator, making his system truly all-electrical, as he transmitted the first live images of people, including his wife. While working for Westinghouse, in 1930, Vladimir K. Zworykin was also trying to unsuccessfully develop an all-electric television system since 1923. He decided to leave Westinghouse to accept an offer from RCA to continue his efforts. Shortly before his leaving, Zworykin paid a visit to Farnsworth at his laboratory. Farnsworth gladly demonstrated and described his system to Zworykin, who was thoroughly impressed, and had his team back at Westinghouse make copies of the cathode ray tube for experimentation. Once at RCA, in 1931, David Sarnoff offered to purchase Farnsworth's patents for $100,000, providing that Farnsworth would become an employee of RCA. Farnsworth declined Sarnoff's offer, and instead joined the Philco company, and moved his family to Philadelphia. RCA filed an interference suit against Farnsworth, claiming that Zworykin's 1923 patent superseded Farnsworth's design. The battle dragged on through the courts for 3 years until 1934, when the U.S. Patent Office rendered their decision in favor of Farnsworth. It wasn't till after several years of litigation that in 1939, RCA agreed to pay Farnsworth $1 million in royalties, freeing RCA to produce and sell electronic television cameras to the public. Meanwhile, the relationship between Philco and Farnsworth came to an end in May of 1933. Philco wanted production models, while Farnsworth spent most of his time on future research. Farnsworth set up his own shop in 1934, and by 1936, his company was regularly transmitting experimental television entertainment programs. By 1938, Farnsworth had set up the Farnsworth Television and Radio Corporation in Fort Wayne, Indiana. From there he developed several concepts including the electronic microscope, and during and after the war years he developed submarine detection devices, an infrared night vision telescope, and most importantly a circular sweep radar display for air traffic control from the ground. In 1951 Farnsworth sold his company to ITT. While at ITT, during the early 1960s, he and his staff invented a series of fusion reactor tubes, called fusers, but they were unable to produce a reaction for no more than 30 seconds. By 1966, ITT decided to terminate the project due to the rising cost of expenses needed to continue. Farnsworth retired and left ITT to return to Brigham Young University in 1967 to continue his fusion research. In 1968 Farnsworth had formed the Philo T Farnsworth Association. He and his associates had secured a contract from NASA to finance the project, but the funding stalled. By December of 1970 his company was in dire need of money. The Farnsworths had sold off their ITT stock and cashed in Philo's life insurance policy, but it was not enough to sustain the company. The creditors came calling, equipment was repossessed, and finally in January of 1970, the IRS closed the business down over delinquent taxes. 3 months later, Farnsworth had become seriously ill with pneumonia and died on March 11, 1971. At the time of his death, Farnsworth had acquired some 300 patents for devices in use today, including the gastroscope, the electron microscope, infrared and radar detectors, and the astronomical telescope. His contributions throughout his lifetime have gone mostly unnoticed today. But Philo T Farnsworth was truly an inventive pioneer in the early days of television, earning him the recognition as the father of television.
We were watching it when Neil Armstrong landed on the moon. Phil turned to me and he says, "Pam, this has made it all worthwhile." Before then, he wasn't too sure.